I stood alone in the apartment, phone shaking in my hand, staring at Emma's message until the words stopped making sense. "I'm cancelling the wedding," she wrote. "I'm marrying Ryan." My chest tightened. I whispered, "This isn't funny," even though no one was there to hear me. I called her. She didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. I texted, "Emma, talk to me." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. Finally, she called back and said, "Please don't shout." "I'm not shouting," I said. "I'm breathing. Barely." She sighed. "I didn't want you to find out like this." "Like what?" I asked. "Like I don't matter." She paused. "Ryan proposed." "So you said yes," I replied. "Just like that." "It wasn't just like that," she said. "It's been a year." I sat on the floor. "A year of what?" Smiling at me. "I didn't plan to hurt you," she said. "You planned everything else," I said. "The venue. The dress. The lies." She whispered, "I'm sorry." "Don't," I said. "Don't make it smaller." She said his name again, softly, like an excuse. "Ryan understands me." I laughed once. "Ryan borrows money from me." "He's changing," she said. "So am I," I said, even though I wasn't. "I'm becoming someone you left." She started crying. "Please don't come tonight." "That was my night," I said. "My name is still on the contract." She hung up. I called my mother. She asked, "Is this a joke?" "No," I said. "She's marrying someone else." My father took the phone and said, "Son, come home." "I can't," I said. "I need to see it." Friends texted. "What happened? Are you okay?" I didn't answer. I packed my suit anyway. My hands moved without permission. At the venue, the lights were on but the room was empty. I walked down the aisle alone. I stood where Emma was supposed to stand and said, "I would have chosen you," to the air. My phone buzzed. A message from Ryan. "I never meant to hurt you." I stared at it, then typed, "You already did." I sat in the front row until the lights shut off. I felt hollow, like something important had been removed without asking. On the drive home, I said out loud, "My life is over," then corrected myself. "No, it's different." I unlocked the apartment and the silence rushed back in. I realized I wasn't just losing Emma. I was losing the person I thought I was. I stood there, knowing nothing ahead would be familiar again. I pressed my back against the door. I said, 5 years, to no one. My phone rang again. It was Emma. I answered, silent. She said, "I didn't think you'd come." "I had to," I said. "You were my future." She whispered, I trusted you," I said. "I told you everything." "I know," she said. "I'm not asking forgiveness." "Good," I said. "Because I don't have any left." She cried. "Ryan is waiting." "Tell him congratulations," I said. "He won a life that breaks easily." She inhaled. "You're being cruel." "No," I said. "I'm being honest." The line went dead. I slid down until I was sitting again. I stared at the ring on the table. I said, "You don't get to come with me." I picked it up and closed my fist. I thought about tomorrow, then next year, then nothing. I understood something then. This was not the end. It was the moment everything split. I said, "I survived," even though it wasn't true yet. I stood up slowly. I took off the suit and hung it back up. "I will not disappear," I said. The apartment stayed quiet. I knew that when I woke up, I would be someone else. I didn't know who, only that my old life was finished. I turned off the light. I lay on the bed fully dressed. I said, "Breathe," again and again. My phone vibrated. A message from Ryan appeared. "I never meant to hurt you," it said. I typed, erased, then typed again. "Keep your apology," I wrote. "You earned the ending you'll get." I tossed the phone away. I closed my eyes. I felt something break, then something harden. That was the sound of my old self leaving. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just let the silence decide what came next. I promised myself, I will remember this day. Because from it, nothing would ever be the same again. I breathed in slowly. I breathed out. I told myself, this pain will shape me. I didn't know how, or when, but I believed it. That belief was all I had, and it was enough to survive the night. Tomorrow would test me, but tonight I remained awake, broken, breathing, and alive again. I met Emma at the cafe near the courthouse because she said it was quiet. I arrived early, sat across from the empty chair, and rehearsed questions I already knew the answers to. When she walked in, she didn't hesitate or look nervous. She just said, "You look tired." I said, "I haven't slept." She replied, "I figured." I asked, "Is this where you tell me the truth?" She folded her hands. "I'm telling you now." I leaned forward. "Say it clearly." She said, "Ryan makes me feel secure." I laughed. "Secure from what?" "From loving me." She didn't flinch. "Love isn't enough." Those words hit harder than the message. I said, 5 years wasn't enough. She shook her head. I was scared. Of me. I asked. Of being alone, she said. I whispered, "You weren't alone." She looked past me and said, "I felt alone." I clenched my jaw. "How long?" She answered, "Almost a year." I said, "A year of lying." She replied, "I didn't plan it." "You planned everything else," I said. "Did Ryan know about me?" She nodded. "Yes." "Did Laura know?" I asked. She hesitated. She suspected. I laughed again. "So everyone knew except me." She said, "It wasn't like that." "It was exactly like that," I said. "You let me look stupid." She said, "Please don't do this." "Don't do what?" I asked. "Ask why my life collapsed." She finally looked at me. I stayed because I was afraid. Afraid of what? I asked. "Starting over," she said. I said, "So you used me." She replied, "I didn't mean to." I said, "Meaning doesn't change damage." She said, "Ryan is stable." I said, "I was loyal." She said, "You don't understand pressure." I said, "You don't understand trust." She crossed her arms. "You're angry." "I'm shattered," I said. Laura appeared near the counter and froze when she saw us. Emma waved her over. Laura said, "I didn't want to choose sides." I said, "You already did." Laura whispered, "I'm sorry." I stood up. "Save it." Emma said, "Don't walk away." I said, "You already did." She said, "Can we still talk sometimes?" I stared at her. "You want comfort from the person you destroyed." She said, "I don't want to lose you completely." I said, "You already lost me." She reached out. "Please." I stepped back. This is where it ends. I took out my phone and blocked her number. I blocked Ryan. I blocked Laura. I said, "I won't watch this anymore." Emma said my name, shaking. I said, "Goodbye." I walked into the rain. My hands were steady, but my chest burned. I told myself, loyalty without respect is self-betrayal. I didn't look back. I didn't slow down. I knew if I stayed, I would beg again. I chose silence instead. That was the first real choice I had made since losing her. I stopped under the awning and heard Emma follow me. She said, "You're acting like I cheated just to hurt you." I turned. "You cheated because you could." She said, "That's not fair." "Neither is betrayal," I replied. She said, "Ryan offered me certainty." I said, "I offered you my life." She said, "You offered hope." I said, "Hope is faith." She said, "Faith doesn't pay bills." I said, "So love failed an interview." She looked away. "You're twisting this." I said, "No, I'm finally seeing it straight." Laura stood behind her, silent. I said, "Did you ever warn me?" Laura said, "I thought she'd choose you." I said, "Thoughts don't protect anyone." Emma said, "You're cruel right now." I said, I'm honest for the first time. She whispered, I still care. I answered, care without loyalty is useless. She cried then, quietly. I didn't know how to leave. I said, so you stayed and destroyed me. She said, I didn't want to be the villain. I said, you don't get to choose that. She said, what do you want from me? I said, nothing. She stepped closer. Tell me you hate me. I shook my head. Hate would mean you still matter. Her face collapsed. Laura touched her arm. I said, this conversation is over. I turned away again. My phone buzzed, but I ignored it. I felt weak, then lighter. I deleted our photos while standing in the rain. I said out loud, I release you. No one answered. That was enough. I kept walking, knowing this cut would scar, but it would not kill me. I don't remember when I stopped eating. I only remember Daniel standing in my doorway saying, you smell like you're disappearing. I didn't answer. He walked in anyway and said, you didn't pick up for 4 days. I didn't feel like talking, I said. He looked around. You haven't worked either. I don't feel like anything, I replied. He sat across from me and said, you're punishing yourself. I deserve it, I said. For what? He asked. For being stupid, I said. For missing signs. He said, start talking. I laughed. She smiled at her phone. She guarded it. She came home late. I said nothing. He said, that doesn't make you worthless. I feel replaceable, I said. Like I was a placeholder. He leaned forward. You were loyal. I was convenient, I said. He shook his head. You're confusing betrayal with truth. I said, she chose another man. He said, she chose fear. She chose security, I said. I wasn't enough. Daniel said, enough for who? I said, for the woman I planned my life around. He said, say this slowly. I said, I built myself around her. He nodded. That's the wound. I rubbed my face. I feel ashamed. Of what? He asked. Begging her, I said. Waiting. He said, that was love. That was weakness, I said. He said, love makes you vulnerable. I hate that, I said. He said, so do I. I stared at the floor. I didn't eat today. He said, when did you last eat? I don't know, I said. He stood up. We are ordering food. I'm not hungry, I said. You don't get a vote, he said. While we waited, he asked, do you plan to die like this? I said, I don't plan anything. He said, that's worse. I whispered, I wake up tired. He said, of pain. Of breathing, I said. He was quiet, then said, do you want her back? I opened my mouth, then closed it. He said, answer me. I want the version of me that existed before her, I said. He nodded. That version didn't depend on someone else's choice. I said, I don't recognize myself. He said, that means you're still here. The food arrived. He put it in front of me. Eat. I said, why do you care? He said, because you sat with me when I lost everything. I don't remember helping, I said. He said, you just stayed. I took a bite. My hand shook. He said, you're not broken beyond repair. I said, I feel empty. Empty can be filled, he said. Not with lies, I said. No, he agreed. With purpose. I swallowed. I don't know who I am without her. He said, then stop defining yourself by someone who left. I looked up. What if I disappear? He said, then I'll drag you back. I laughed once, weakly. He said, you don't get to vanish because someone else was cowardly. I said, I don't want revenge. He said, good. I don't want forgiveness either, I said. He said, then what do you want? I thought, then said, I want to survive this. He smiled. That's enough for today. After he left, the apartment was still quiet, but it felt different. I sat alone and said, "I'm still here." I didn't believe it fully, but I repeated it anyway. I didn't know what I would become. I only knew I would not disappear. I arrived in my hometown before sunrise, the streets empty except for the occasional jogger. My apartment keys clicked in the lock, but I didn't unpack. I just sat on the couch and stared at the walls. My phone buzzed, but I ignored it. Then there was a knock. I opened the door. "Yes." "Sophia Reed," she said, holding a folder. "I was told you might need help." I raised an eyebrow. "Help with what?" "Life," she said simply. "Or rebuilding it." I laughed, a dry sound. "You hear that a lot." "More than you'd think," she said. "Come in." I stepped aside. She walked in, calm, collected, the kind of person who doesn't need to shout to be heard. "Sit," she said. "Tell me everything." I shrugged. "Everything is broken. What's left to tell?" "Everything matters," she said. "Even the parts you want to ignore." I stared at the floor. I let her take it all. Emma. Ryan. My life. She said nothing. She just waited. "I feel like I abandoned myself," I admitted. "I let someone else define me." "Then maybe it's time to take it back," she said. I laughed bitterly. "You make it sound simple." She shook her head. "Nothing worth fixing is simple. But ignoring it doesn't help either." I looked at her. "How do I even start?" "First," she said, "you recognize power. You have it. Just misplaced." "Power?" I scoffed. "I'm powerless." "You control your finances," she said. "Your body, your schedule, your decisions. You just haven't used them fully." I rubbed my face. "I don't feel strong enough." "You will," she said. "Strength isn't born. It's built, piece by piece." I asked, "And what about her?" She tilted her head. "Emma didn't destroy you. You let her dictate your worth. That's on you, not her." I swallowed hard. I don't know if I can stop thinking about her. "Then think about her differently," she said. "Not as someone who broke you, but as someone who showed you what not to do." I frowned. "That makes sense." "You can rebuild quietly," she said. "No announcements. No revenge. Just control what you can." I nodded slowly. "Finances, body, future." "Yes," she said. "Start there. Everything else will follow." I realized then I had stopped doing basic things, working out, planning meals, saving money. "I've let myself go," I admitted. "Good," she said. "Recognizing it is step one." I laughed quietly. "It's been a long fall." She smiled faintly. "Falls are lessons disguised as pain." I looked at her. "And if fate throws me back to that wedding day?" "Then you arrive whole," she said. "Not broken. Not seeking revenge. Just yourself." I exhaled. "I think I can do that." "Think?" she asked. "I will do that," I corrected. "No one else controls me. Not her. Not Ryan. Not anyone." She nodded approvingly. "That's a start." We spent the afternoon going through practical things, budgeting, routines, small victories. Each plan made me feel less like a victim. At one point, she asked, "What's the first thing you want to fix?" I said, "My mornings. I want to wake up and not feel lost." "Then do it," she said. "Tomorrow. And the day after." I felt a spark I hadn't felt in months. Control. Choice. Purpose. I looked at her and said, "You make it sound possible." "I make it sound obvious," she said. "It was always possible. You just didn't see it." I realized she was right. Emma didn't take me down. I had stepped aside. And now, I would step forward. Before leaving, I said, "Thank you." "You're welcome," she said. "But don't thank me yet. Thank yourself when you've rebuilt." I nodded, feeling a strange calm. Pain was still there, but it no longer ruled me. I promised myself, quietly, if I face that day again, I won't arrive broken. And for the first time in months, I believed it. I stepped outside, sunlight on my face, and felt like I might survive this after all. I heard through the grapevine that Ryan's business was struggling. Michael Turner, his partner, mentioned it casually to someone I know. I didn't reach out. I just listened. Revenue's down, Michael said over lunch. We are cutting staff next month. I asked, and Emma? He hesitated. She's distant. Rarely in the office. Seems unhappy. I said nothing. I didn't need confirmation. I already felt the shift. I called Sophia later. Do you think I should do something? She said, do what? Tell them, warn them, reveal what they've done, I said. She laughed softly. Do you want justice, or do you want peace? Both, I said. Pick one, she said. You can't have both without hurting yourself. I thought about it and nodded, though she couldn't see me. Peace, I said. I stopped thinking about confrontation after that. I focused on myself. I started small, morning runs, planning meals, revisiting investments I had ignored. I watched my confidence return, quiet but firm. I noticed it in my posture, the way I spoke in meetings, how people listened without me asking. I didn't need attention. I just needed control. Michael mentioned Emma again. She's asking questions about Ryan's decisions more often. Looks worried, he said. I asked, does Ryan notice? Hard to tell. He's defensive, short-tempered, Michael said. I smiled faintly. The karma wasn't loud. It was patient. One evening, I saw a photo Emma posted online. She looked polished, smiling, but the eyes betrayed exhaustion. I whispered, "You're not happy, are you?" A week later, Michael texted me. Ryan cancelled a client meeting last minute. Emma handled it instead. She's losing patience. I said nothing. I didn't need to gloat. Watching was enough. I felt stronger every day. I reminded myself, this is your life now. Build it, don't ruin theirs. Sometimes I wanted to send a message, remind them of the past. Sometimes I wanted to expose the lies. But I stopped myself. Sophia's words echoed, peace, not revenge. I focused on sharpening my skills, both professional and personal. I spent evenings reading, learning negotiation, strategy, and self-defense. Every page made me feel capable again. I met someone new at a networking event. Her confidence reminded me of Sophia, but different. I didn't pursue anything romantic yet. I wasn't ready for attachment. I was ready for strength. Michael texted again. Emma seems isolated. Ryan is short with her. Tension is visible to everyone. I smiled. Not out of joy at their suffering, but at the balance of life. Actions have consequences. I walked through the park one evening and thought, I'm no longer the person who needed her to survive. I stopped at a cafe, wrote in my journal. I am calm. I am deliberate. I am growing while they stumble. That is enough. Sometimes, I still felt the pull, the temptation to intervene, to expose, to remind them. I resisted every time. Silence became my weapon. Observation became my strength. I didn't interfere. I merely existed fully. I met Sophia for coffee. I feel steady, I said. She smiled. That's growth. Not noise, not showness. Just power in its purest form. I realized she was right. I didn't need recognition. My strength didn't require validation. At night, I walked alone and breathed deeply. The pain wasn't gone, but it no longer dictated me. I thought about Emma and Ryan. Their unraveling wasn't my doing. It was natural. Cause and effect. Life doesn't need my help to balance itself. I whispered to the empty street. I am awake. I am aware. I am mine again. By the end of the month, I noticed subtle changes. Sharper focus, steadier hands, clear thoughts. I had become the person I was meant to be after all the chaos. And I promised myself, no interference, no vindication. Just growth, silence, and the quiet satisfaction of knowing the power had shifted. Not loudly, but undeniably. I opened the mail slowly, my hands trembling before I even saw the envelope. The white card inside gleamed, cruel in its simplicity. Ryan Mitchell and Emma Carter request the honor of your presence at their wedding. I read aloud, voice tight. My fingers shook so badly I had to set it down on the table. Sophia, sitting across from me, looked up from her notebook. That's today. I swallowed hard. No. In 3 weeks. I ran a hand through my hair. The exact date we planned. The exact day that was supposed to be mine. She nodded slowly, calm as ever. Do you want to go as the man you were, or the man you are now? I stared at her. What do you mean? I mean, she said, leaning forward. Do you want to show up broken, consumed by what they took, or whole, knowing it doesn't define you? I whispered. I don't know if I can be that man. You can, she said. I've seen you rebuild. This isn't about them anymore, it's about you. I shook my head, pacing. I feel like I'll collapse in front of everyone. I'll look weak, humiliated again. Then prepare, she said. Not for them. For yourself. For the version of you who survived. I laughed bitterly. Survived? I've barely survived so far. You've survived enough to be dangerous, she said softly. Not in a violent way, just unbreakable in ways they'll never understand. I sank into a chair. Part of me wants to stay home. Pretend I never saw the invitation. Pretend it doesn't hurt. And pretend you're powerless, she asked gently. You're not powerless. You're conscious. You have choice. I stared at the card again. Choice. I keep thinking about what I'll say if I see her. Or him. She said nothing. Just let me speak. I want to ask her why, I admitted. Why she left me. Why she smiled at Ryan all this time. Why she made me believe I mattered. And what then? She asked. I don't know, I said. I think I want to cry. I think I want to scream. I want to feel it all before I can move on. Then do it, she said. But do it on your terms, not theirs. I nodded slowly. I want to go, I said. Not for revenge. Not for anger. But for truth. To show up as myself. Sophia smiled faintly. Good. That's the right reason. And you won't be alone. I want you there, I said. Beside me. Not for support. Just witness. I need someone who knows what I've been through. She reached across the table and lightly touched my hand. I'll be there. But remember, don't look for their reaction. Look at your own. I exhaled, feeling the weight in my chest ease slightly. I didn't realize how much this mattered to me until now. Seeing them happy, or pretending to be, will either destroy me or set me free. You won't let it destroy you, she said. You've built yourself up too much for that. I stood and held the card in my hand, staring at it like it might bite me. I can't avoid it. I won't avoid it. I'll face it. But not as the scared, shattered man I used to be. You'll face it as the man who survived, she said, smiling with quiet certainty. I repeated it under my breath, almost like a mantra. The man who survived. The man who survived. She stood and said, then plan. Dress, timing, what you'll say. Not to impress anyone. To honor yourself. I nodded. I will. And I'll walk in knowing I'm the same man who loved her, but stronger than the one she left behind. She said, exactly. And nothing else matters. I held the invitation tightly. Old wounds opened, raw and sharp, but I didn't crumble. I felt the anger, the pain, the betrayal, but I felt something else too, control. I whispered, I will not be broken again. Sophia placed a hand on my shoulder. Then go, and show up for you. I nodded again, finally calm. I will. Not for revenge. Not to prove anything. Just me. For the first time since it all began, I felt ready. I looked at the invitation once more. Then I said quietly, I will arrive as myself. Whole. Unshaken. Unafraid. And I meant it. I pushed open the heavy doors of the venue and stepped inside. The room fell silent for a fraction of a second, just long enough to make my chest tighten. Sophia was beside me, calm as ever, her hand lightly brushing mine. Remember, she whispered, you're here for yourself. I nodded. For myself. People turned, eyes flicking between us and the altar. A few gasps, some murmurs. I ignored them. My steps were steady, measured. Then I saw her. Emma. She froze mid-step, the bouquet slipping slightly from her hand. Ryan's face tightened, a flicker of panic in his eyes. I whispered to Sophia, "Look at that." She smiled faintly. "You're in control. They're reacting to you, not the other way around." I felt a strange calm settle over me. Years of heartbreak, betrayal, and loss, all of it funneled into this moment. Emma's voice trembled as she said, I didn't expect you to come." I replied, softly, "I didn't expect to feel this calm." Ryan muttered something under his breath. I didn't need to hear it. Emma stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Can we talk?" I shook my head. "Not here. Not in front of them. Not in a way that gives me a chance to falter." She paused. "I made a mistake. I held up a hand. "I don't need an apology. I don't need anything from you." Her eyes widened. "But, No," I said firmly. "This isn't about you anymore. It's about me." She swallowed. I was scared. I didn't know what I wanted. "And now?" I asked. She shook her head. "I'm confused. I thought I'd feel happy, but—" "You thought leaving me would fix something," I said, calm, even. "It didn't. And it never will. For you or me." Ryan cleared his throat behind her. She turned. We should go." I said nothing. I just stood, shoulders squared, feeling the weight of every betrayal lift from my chest. Emma whispered, almost inaudibly, "I didn't think you'd move on so gracefully." I smiled faintly. "Grace isn't about you. It's about surviving with dignity. Something you'll never understand." She flinched, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Fear of realizing what she lost. Fear of seeing me whole. I looked at Ryan. His jaw was tight, hands fidgeting. I could almost hear the panic in his mind. I whispered to Sophia, "It's working. The weight is shifting." She nodded. "You're calm. That's your power." Emma's voice cracked. I wish I could take it back." I said, "Wishing won't undo the years you ignored me. Actions define us, not regrets." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Ryan tugged at her arm. "We should start." I watched them move toward the altar. Each step was deliberate, but I felt no rush of pain. Only clarity. I whispered to Sophia, "I don't feel the urge to scream. I don't feel the need to cry." "Good," she said. "You're observing, not reacting. That's freedom." I took a deep breath and let the quiet of the hall fill me. Whispers continued around us, some unfinished sentences, a few glances of shock. I ignored all of it. I said aloud, almost to myself, "I don't need her apology. I don't need their recognition. I just need me." Sophia touched my arm. "You have it. All of it." I nodded, feeling the final shift settle into my chest. I was free. No anger, no regret. Just calm, unwavering presence. Emma glanced back once more, her face pale. I gave her a small, polite nod. Not a smile. Not a scowl. Just acknowledgement that the past existed, and that it no longer had power over me. Ryan's hands fumbled. I felt no triumph. Only observation. Life, like karma, was quiet sometimes. Its justice didn't scream. I whispered again, "I am complete. I am whole. I am mine." Sophia smiled beside me. "Exactly." I exhaled. The tension left my shoulders. I walked toward the nearest empty seat and sat down. The ceremony began. I observed, calm, collected, untouchable in the best sense. And for the first time in years, I felt truly alive, untethered from the past, unshaken by their presence, ready for whatever came next. I watched the wedding unfold, a ceremony polished but empty. Everyone smiled, but there was tension beneath it, a subtle crack in their world that no one else could see. I felt it from the moment I stepped in. Sophia leaned close. "Notice anything?" I nodded slowly. "It's hollow. It always feels hollow when truth lingers." A message popped up on my phone. Michael Turner. Ryan missed several deadlines. Investors are pulling out. I said aloud, more to myself than anyone else. So it begins. Sophia said softly, "You don't need to interfere." "I won't," I said. "Let it happen naturally. That's the point." Guests clapped as they exchanged vows. Emma's eyes flickered toward me briefly. I caught her gaze but looked past her. My chest was calm. Steady. Whole. She whispered to Ryan, "Is everything okay?" He forced a smile. "Of course." I saw the cracks. Ryan's hand shook slightly as he adjusted his tie. Emma's posture was rigid, her smile strained. Michael's texts continued. Ryan's company just lost a key client. He's lying to Emma. The board is furious. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Karma doesn't need my help. Sophia nudged me lightly. "Focus on yourself. Notice your power." I whispered, "It's strange. I feel no joy in their collapse. Just relief that I survived it." Emma glanced at me again, and this time I met her eyes. Not with anger, not with pleading, just presence. She blinked and looked away. I whispered under my breath, "I am complete. I am whole. I do not need her apology. I do not need her attention." The ceremony continued, a blur of vows and flowers, but I was detached. Detached in a way that felt freeing. I could hear whispers behind me, guests noticing tension, murmuring about Ryan's faltering smile, Emma's pale cheeks, but it didn't touch me. Sophia said quietly, "Watch closely. This is the real world, unfiltered. You survived it and it didn't break you." I nodded. I see it. And I see myself. Stronger. Calmer. Present. Emma tried to glance again, subtly. I didn't look back. She whispered to Ryan, I thought I knew him." He said something low, his voice edged with frustration. I didn't hear it fully. I didn't need to. I leaned slightly to Sophia and whispered, "Their world is unraveling. And I'm just living mine." She smiled faintly. "Exactly. That's the difference." The reception began. Ryan's attempts to appear confident faltered. Michael's text, "Ryan is avoiding investors at the party. Emma looks worried." I didn't react. I only observed. Their mistakes, their miscalculations, their stress, it was obvious to me now. They were trapped by their own choices. A waiter passed with champagne. I shook my head. I don't drink to this. Sophia touched my arm. You don't need to. You're already beyond celebration or revenge. I nodded. This is enough. Just being here, steady, watching without interference. Emma's eyes met mine one final time. There was regret there. Confusion. Fear. But no apology. No explanation. I whispered softly, I don't need it. I never did. She looked away. Ryan whispered something sharply. She nodded, expression forced. The tension between them was palpable. I exhaled slowly. The room buzzed with music and chatter, but I felt quiet. I felt free. Sophia said, "Time to go." I nodded. Yes. I've seen enough. My part is done. I walked out with her at my side. No words. No confrontation. Just calm, deliberate steps. The guests noticed my presence. A few whispered, but I ignored them. Outside, the air was cool, refreshing. I took a deep breath and said aloud, I survived. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to fight. I just lived. Sophia smiled. And that is far more powerful than anything else. I looked back once. Emma's gaze followed me briefly, but I didn't meet it. I didn't need to. I whispered one final time. Karma didn't need me. It always spoke for me. I walked on. Head high. Heart steady. Free. I wake up to sunlight spilling across my apartment floor. I stretch and feel my muscles, my body alive in a way it hasn't been for years. Sophia is making coffee in the kitchen, humming softly. Morning, I say. She smiles. Morning. You slept well. I did, I reply. For the first time in a long while, I feel rested. She sets 2 mugs on the table. Good. That's how it starts. I watch her. Calm, steady, unhurried. I say, you know, I keep thinking about the past. Emma, Ryan, all of it. Sophia leans back, sipping her coffee. And it doesn't hurt the way it used to, I say. It's just history. Lessons, not chains. She nods. Exactly. Betrayal rewrote your story, but it didn't end it. You did that. I smile faintly. I forgot what that felt like. Choice, freedom. Not being trapped in someone else's decisions. You remembered, she says simply. I take a deep breath and look out the window. I spent years thinking I lost everything. But I gained, me. She raises an eyebrow. And what does you look like now? I pause. Calm. Strong. Focused. I've rebuilt myself slowly, quietly. No showy victories, no revenge. Just steady, deliberate life. She smiles warmly. That's real victory. I laugh softly. It's strange. I didn't need to hurt anyone to heal. I didn't need to expose them. I just needed myself. Exactly, she says. Peace isn't loud. It's steady. I set my mug down and say, I want to live this way, every day. To keep growing, learning, becoming. Not because of them, but because of me. Sophia tilts her head. And you will. Step by step. I nod. I've learned to enjoy my mornings, plan my days, invest in myself. I even started volunteering at the shelter downtown. Helping others feels good. Real. She smiles. You're giving yourself a life. That's more than most people manage. I understand now, I say. Betrayal didn't break me. It forced me to rebuild better than before. Stronger, wiser, in control. That's the story I choose. Sophia reaches across the table and touches my hand lightly. And you'll keep choosing it. I will, I say, conviction steady in my voice. Every day, every choice. I won't let anyone else define me again. We step outside into the afternoon sun, walking slowly. I feel the warmth on my skin, the steady rhythm of my steps. I say, I never thought freedom would feel like this, peaceful, quiet, yet powerful. She glances at me. That's because it's earned. You earned it. I nod, absorbing the feeling. I don't look back. Not with regret. Not with longing. I look forward. Always forward. Sophia smiles faintly. Good. That's how you'll stay strong. I inhale deeply. I have friends who care. A career I'm building. Health I'm nurturing. And someone I trust walking beside me, steady and honest. She glances at me and smiles. I think that's the most important part. I used to define myself through someone else's approval, I say quietly. Now, I define myself through my choices, my actions, my values. That's real strength, Sophia says. I feel it, calm, firm, unshakable. I say aloud, I don't need closure from anyone but myself. The past taught me, but it doesn't control me anymore. We continue walking, side by side, sunlight warming our backs. I say, I survived betrayal. I survived heartbreak. And now, I am whole. Not because I wanted revenge. Not because I needed her apology. Simply because I chose to live fully. Sophia nods quietly. And that's all anyone can ask for. I pause and look ahead. The life I have now, it's mine. I built it. Step by step, choice by choice. And I'm proud of it. She says softly, you should be. I smile, feeling the truth in her words. I am. And I always will be. Betrayal didn't end my story. It rewrote it. And I like the new version much better. We walk on, slow and deliberate, facing the future honestly, together. I feel peace, self-respect, and satisfaction fill every part of me. I whisper quietly to myself, this is my life, my choices, my freedom, and I will never let anyone take it away again. The sun sets gently, casting long shadows ahead. I walk forward, unafraid, steady, and complete. I smile faintly, thinking, I survived. I rebuilt. I am free. And for the first time in a long time, I feel entirely at home, in myself, in my life, and in the story I chose to write.